you're looking forward to Diablo 4 PvP like I am, then you probably have your eyes on the Rogue. Here's some PvP specific builds as we head into the release of Diablo 4. Here's an overview. First we have the classic Rogue class fantasy, stealth and melee burst damage. It slots the Shadow Clone and the prep specialization. For a more sustained build we can swap the prep and the clone for more utility. After that we have the Infiltrator build that procs poison traps from stealth. Next we have the Dash and Chill build which tries to freeze the target and uses the Noxious Ice aspect. And finally we have the range build that revolves more around kiting and marksmanship abilities. Before we go into the builds, let's consider a couple aspects that most players might want to run baseline in PvP. Here they are. It's the protecting aspect and the eluding aspect. I think it's likely that every player is going to run the protecting aspect, so there's two ways to go about it. Either you proc their bubble, kite, and re-engage, or you proc their bubble and let them proc your bubble, and you just get to re-engage faster than they do on you. I can see Shadow Step stun into a little bit of damage to proc the protecting aspect as being really potent in PvP, but again, we're going to have to see how this plays out. Diving into the builds, I'm using d4builds.gg. Links to all these builds are in the description. I want to start by pointing out that almost every PvP build is going to want this Harlequin Crest unique helm. Depends on how hard this is to actually get, we'll see, but this is on every build. It's just too good to have plus ranks to skills and damage reduction. For PvP, you're probably going to want the eluding aspect and the protecting aspect, like I said. And then for the Shadow Clone Burst build in particular, this Grasp of Shadow seems obviously best in slot. It's a unique, so again, it might be very difficult to get. But against vulnerable targets, you're going to proc another Shadow Clone, and it increases Shadow Clone damage, just synergizing across the board. Whenever you have Shadow Step, you're going to want the Ravager aspect on the boots. This gives a second charge, and since our Shadow Step stuns, we're going to want the aspect of Retribution to increase damage against stun targets. This is just our kill window, stun the target, kill the target. All that synergizes together. Depending on which spender ability is best, I'm pretty sure it's Twisting Blades, we're going to want to run the aspect that increases that damage, so that's the Blade Dancer's aspect. The only aspect that juices up our Shadow Clone is the aspect of Imitated Imbuement, so we're going to want to run an Imbuement with our clone. I think the best damaging imbuement is the Poison Imbuement. It's over 5 seconds, it's 140% base damage, that seems good. And then obviously we're going to want to juice up our imbuments if possible with some legendary effects, and that leads us to the aspect of Corruption. So here's how I see this going. You stealth in, you proc your Poison Imbuement, you Shadow Step, maybe you dump a few Twisting Blades into the target, you press Shadow Clone, you have all your buttons back, you get your energy refunded with Second Wind, or whatever this is called down here, Aftermath, and then you can go again. Pretty straightforward. I feel like some unsuspecting victims will get absolutely nuked by this. Let's go into the skill tree. The basic skill isn't that important. I'm not sure which is best, but I believe we want to make a target vulnerable. That leaves us with either Puncture or Invigorating Strike. Invigorating Strike when we're low on energy, and Puncture if we're close and hit them with 2 of the little daggers. We might be able to take some skill points from this and put it elsewhere, I'm not sure yet. Obviously we want to max our spender, and we want to daze the target. CC is OP. At least 1 point in Shadow Step. I think we might want to take points out of Invigorating Strike and put it into Shadow Step. We're going to want Shadow Step to stun. This is just too good. Weapon Mastery, more damage. Evade cooldown when you daze an enemy, that synergizes with the Twisting Blade modifier. And then knocking down dazed enemies, synergizing, baby. 1 point in Concealment. We don't need to max this because it just lowers the cooldown. We're already getting 2 of these, that's enough. We don't need any more. I'm not positive on which second modifier to use. I think we want to make them vulnerable for 6 seconds. Our target should always be vulnerable. Exploit, dealing damage out of the gate, sounds good. Dealing damage to vulnerable enemies, sounds good. Poison Imbuement maxed. We also want to take the modifiers. We also want to increase poisoning damage. Imbued skills add crit chance. More damage. Anything with damage, let's do it. Aftermath. This procs really nicely with preparation. So we want to jump the target, dump some abilities, dump some energy, press our ultimate, and go again. This works super well with that. We basically have 1 big burst window, 1 kill window, and we want to maximize its effectiveness. I'm not sure about this one. That's just there. Shadow Clone and the modifiers. And then finally the capstone. I believe we want Victimize for dealing direct damage to vulnerable enemies. They should always be vulnerable. We can see about swapping to a different style with close quarters combat. That would mean we have to use Puncture, but I'm pretty sure everything synergizes with vulnerable enemies, and we're just going to want to use this capstone. Heading over to the Sustain build, we are dropping Shadow Clone and we are dropping Preparation, and instead we're taking Dash and combo points. Dash could also be Dark Shroud, some other ability, maybe an imbuement, I don't know. I think Dash might be the best for the mobility, we'll see. And then since we're using combo points, that lets us use the Condemnation Unique, which is juicy for combo points. Since we're not using the clone, we're going to drop those unique gloves from the first build, and I'm going to take Quickening Fog, which just modifies Dash to drop a little grenade at the end and whatever. Everything else is about the same, and I am taking Puncture here, but again, the basic skill doesn't seem too important, and I'm sure the best one will show itself once we start playing more. Since we're not taking an ultimate, I dropped all the talent points from there. We're still using the Victimize capstone, or key passive as they call it, and then going down the Dash and its modifiers little subtree. Not too much to say about this one. You're going to be dashing around, more mobility, and you're going to be staying in the fight longer. The next build, I do have two different iterations in mind. One's a bit more bursty, but reliant upon a unique drop. The other one's less bursty and a bit more kind of sneaky, almost like a rat. I don't know, it's probably going to be a build with some shenanigans going on. But let me show you this unique Penitent Greaves. It leaves behind a trail that chills enemies. And then that synergizes with this aspect of Noxious Ice. Chilled enemies poisoned by poison imbuement will be further chilled, and if they are frozen, then you deal additional poison damage. And now, if you can also get a poison trap damage on them, that sounds good if they can be frozen. I'm not sure how reliable we will be able to freeze people. We have to like run around them essentially. Maybe we can do it in stealth and they won't notice. Or it'll be funny if you're stealthing and then there's all of a sudden a frost. There's just like frost appearing near you on the ground. You're like, what's that? Oh, it's a rogue. But then combo all of this with the modifier on Poison Trap, where it knocks the target down for 1.5 seconds. That allows us to sneak in a Death Trap, which arms after 1.25 seconds. So maybe we can combine these two. Using Preparation, we get our abilities back, and then using Aftermath passive on the skill tree, we get some energy back, and we can start jabbing some Twisting Blades. This feels like there's some shenanigans possible here, but again, it's reliant upon a bit of a gimmick with these boots, and maybe some interactions that we're not sure about how will play out. Assuming we can't cheese with the unique boots and the chill effects, I think we're going to be dashing around instead, maybe shadow stepping instead, and then slotting in different aspects accordingly, and using combo points, perhaps with the unique dagger if you get it, but this seems a bit more realistic, a bit more reliable for this build. I'm really excited about the synergies of this next build. It's a more reliable way to apply Noxious Ice. It's called Dash and Chill, so what we're going to do is we're going to apply Cold Imbuement and dash to the target to chill them. With Aspect of Quickening Fog, we're going to drop a grenade, maybe daze them as well, and Frostbitten Aspect will say chilled enemies hit by your grenade skills have a chance to be frozen, and you deal increased damage to frozen targets. So let's say you apply Cold Imbuement, you dash through, you drop a grenade, the grenade freezes them, and then you turn on Poison Imbuement and start jabbing Twisting Blades into their back. Chilled enemies poisoned by Poison Imbuement will further be chilled, and maybe they weren't frozen yet, maybe we freeze them here. If not, we deal bonus damage to frozen enemies. Aspect of Retribution, increased damage to stunned enemies. Stunned, not the same as frozen. Whatever, maybe we can quickly Shadow Step as well, do more poison damage, stun them, keep jabbing them in the back with combo points and Condemnation. If our plan is foiled, maybe we have another dash charge we can get away. Maybe we have another Shadow Step charge we can get away. Feels a bit cheeky. Maybe freeze them, maybe nuke them, maybe not. I'm excited. And finally we have our ranged build. Real quick, I just want to point out that there's this amulet that's a unique, where your Rain of Arrows imbues all imbuments at once. If you get this, it sounds like it could be really fun, and one of the modifiers is that imbuments are stronger on Rain of Arrows, so I could just see this being really fun. Poor souls that get caught in the rain. Assuming we don't get this amulet, let's just use Poison Imbuement instead. For the basic skill, again, I'm not even sure which one's best. Heartseeker might be good for moving targets, like it'll definitely hit them. Or Forceful Arrow, because it knocks players back that are close. I've seen in some footage where in the Fields of Hatred, a player can be knocked back. Let's keep on Quickening Fog, let's keep Ravager's Aspect. Shadow Step too good, gets you out of stuns, gets you out of CC Unstoppable, sounds good. If you can get this Wind Force bow, that sounds really nice. You have a chance to knock back with this as well. Let's knock everybody back. That'd be great. We're going to use combo points, so Condemnation if we can get it. Otherwise, we can fill that in with something else. Aspect of Surprise, we're going to be evading and kiting, so might as well leave behind stun grenades. That sounds fun. Trick Shot aspect. But most of our juice will be coming from the Capstone or the key passive, Precision. And we want to get max stacks of Precision and then hit them in the face with a Poison Imbued Penetrating Shot crit. And a crit with Poison Imbuement will do extra damage. Critical strikes with Poison Imbued skills deal 75% increased poison damage. So we'll take chunky damage and a chunky dot, I believe. Let's see, what else do we have? We're going to take haste, we're going to take move speed, we're going to be running around, we're going to be kiting, we're going to be using concealment more as a disengage, dashing around more as a disengage, spamming out some arrows. I don't see rapid fire being good because you stand still for actually a decent amount of time. People might even sidestep part of your cast. This feels like it will not be best for PvP, so we're left with penetrating shot as a spender for PvP. So we needed to build around that. Poison Imbuement seems like the best damage, and it synergizes nicely with the guaranteed crits of Precision key passive. Let me know. What do you think? I think we're fortunate as rogue players to have so many potential builds for PvP. Even all 3 ultimates can be used. Multiple of the specializations can be used. I didn't even really explore Inner Sight. Maybe that's even better than I'm kind of giving it credit for. But we'll see how when the game comes out and how the meta shapes, which ones are good, but hopefully all of them, because they all seem fun in their own way. Bursting, kiting, being ranged, being melee, it all seems fun, and the rogue gets all of that baked into one class. I'm pumped.